What happens when a quiet force steps into a studio famous for turning whispers into wildfire? The moment hits faster than you realize. The audience slides into their seats, the lights blaze down like 1,000 sharp eyes, and the energy in the room thrums beneath your skin. Then Bryan walks in, his signature, effortless stride catching every gaze. But today, there's a shift in the air, something heavier, something electric. Every camera operator leans a little closer, sensing that today's show won't follow the usual script. Joy Bahar sits poised at her desk, her smile precise, controlled, a smile that says she already knows the next move, and she's ready to strike. As Luke settles into his chair, the studio seems to pause. Whispers fade. The hum of equipment drops. Even the subtle rustling of the audience slows. Something is about to happen. A collision charged with tension, barely contained. A pulse runs through the room, faint at first, then growing, rising like a wave on the verge of crashing. Joy's eyes glint with playful challenge. Luke's jaw tightens with a calm strength that warns he didn't walk in unprepared. The first question lands, seemingly light but sharper than it appears. It slices through the air, rippling across the room. Luke hears it, measures it, and lets the silence stretch just long enough to sync every heartbeat in the studio. Behind his eyes, something flickers, a spark the audience senses but can't name. A shiver runs down spines, cameras freeze. A producer inhales sharply, a stagehand halts mid-step. Nobody knows what comes next, but everyone can feel the fuse ignite. This isn't just an interview, this is the first crack in a moment that could explode across daytime television. Somewhere in that silence, the promise of a line so sharp it lands squarely on Joy begins to form. And the storm? It didn't start on camera. It began in the shadows of the studio long before the lights woke, long before anyone realized they were about to witness a moment that would shake the room to its core. Backstage, the tension is palpable, alive like the air right before lightning splits the sky. Luke arrives early, stepping into the dim, bustling corridor. A half smile plays on his lips, but it doesn't reach his eyes. Boots click against polished floors, each step deliberate, controlled. Inside, a mix of curiosity, caution, and readiness churns. He's faced massive crowds, hostile interviews, high-pressure stages, but today feels different. Something whispers, "Stay sharp." Meanwhile, in her dressing room, Joy Bahar prepares with methodical precision. The door slightly ajar, the glow of the mirror illuminates a face both experienced and resolute. She flips through note cards, each question chosen deliberately, each pause loaded with potential fire. She taps a card against the desk, a silent countdown to the moment of ignition. She's not nervous, she's calculating. She knows the audience expects her bite and she's ready to deliver. Yet even she senses it. Something unusual lingering in the air, a tension she pretends to ignore. In the control room, the producers whisper urgently, scanning monitors for signs of reassurance. They know the outline, they know the reputation, they know the chemistry could go sideways in a heartbeat. One runs a hand through his hair, another bites her lip. Eyes locked on the clock, counting down to an event nobody can stop. Silence dominates, because at this level of stakes, one wrong word could spark exactly the explosion they're trying to prevent. And just beyond the curtains, the audience trickles in, unaware that a storm is gathering just feet away. The chatter, the excitement, they have no idea what's about to hit. The audience laughs, settles into their seats, snaps selfies, and murmurs about which hot topic will be tackled first. They don't notice the tension lurking in the producer's shoulders. They don't see the stage manager pacing a little faster than usual. They have no clue that they are about to witness a confrontation so sharp it could slice through the polished veneer of daytime television. Bryan stands near the stage entrance, rolling his shoulders, shaking off the last hints of hesitation. His eyes flick toward Joy Bahar as she emerges from her dressing room, radiating a calm so precise it feels almost like armor. Their gazes lock for a single second, and in that heartbeat, something unspoken sparks. Electric, volatile, a silent warning that a line is about to be crossed. "Going live in 1 minute," calls the stage manager, his voice tight, taut with anticipation. Luke nods. Joy smiles. The crew stiffens. The audience cheers. None of them have any idea how quickly the energy in the room is about to shift, how fast the tension will crackle through the studio, how a single question could ignite a storm strong enough to echo across Hollywood. But the storm already knows. It's alive, swelling, threading itself through the walls, waiting to break. The conversation begins almost gently, like the calm surface of a lake, hiding a raging current beneath. Warm studio lights bathe the set in a soft glow. The audience leans forward, smiling, unaware of the tremor running under the floor. Luke settles into his chair with familiar southern ease, a polite grin earning a wave of applause. Joy greets him warmly, her tone sweet and disarming, but with an invisible edge. For a moment, it seems harmless, almost friendly. They could be chatting quietly in a cafe, not under the glaring spotlight of live television. Then Joy lifts her first card, her fingers pausing just a fraction of a second, a hesitation almost imperceptible to most. But Luke sees it. His eyes follow the motion slowly, deliberately, like a man who has spent a lifetime reading rooms and people before making a single move. Joy's smile deepens, though it no longer reaches her eyes. She leans in, posture perfect, breath controlled, and delivers her opening question. Her words are soft, almost innocuous, but deceptively dangerous. The atmosphere changes instantly, not violently, not loudly, but sharply, like the sudden drop of temperature that makes your skin prickle. Luke senses it immediately. The audience feels it too, even if they can't quite put their finger on why. Behind the cameras, crew members stiffen, bracing for the unpredictable. Luke lets the question hang, a heartbeat, then another. The silence thickens the air but never suggests uncertainty. His jaw tightens subtly, a muscle twitching just enough for the most attentive viewers to notice. His eyes, steady and calculating, weigh the gravity of Joy's opening move. When he speaks, his voice is calm, smooth, a low rumble filling the space without pushing against it. Every word carries quiet authority, a boundary wrapped in composure. Joy tilts her head, drinking in his posture, his tone, the controlled fire behind his eyes. Her smile widens imperceptibly. She senses it. He senses it. And slowly the room begins to feel it. Tension ripples outward, hiding within the audience's laughter, yet vibrating through every sentence exchanged. Luke adjusts slightly in his seat, grounding himself with the instincts of a performer honed over years under blinding lights and unpredictable crowds. His hands remain still, resting lightly on his lap, but his fingers curl inward just a fraction, a spark of focus tightening inside him. Joy moves to her next point, deliberate, measured, her voice weaving humor with challenge. She circles back to his previous answer with precision, coaxing the tension higher. The audience chuckles, unaware that with every word they're stepping closer to the flame. Luke watches her, eyes sharpening. Luke's expression remains steady, but for a brief instant, a flicker crosses his eyes, quick, bright, unmistakable, like the first spark catching on dry kindling. He leans in just slightly, his answer carrying a subtle weight, steady in tone but threaded with an undertone that says he knows exactly where Joy is steering the conversation. He doesn't retreat. He doesn't deflect. He meets her head-on, calm and unshaken. In that very moment, the air itself seems to tighten. The temperature rises just a fraction, a quiet warning sliding through the studio like a whisper from the future. Behind the cameras, a producer inhales sharply. A stagehand freezes mid-step. Joy's smile twitches, fleeting, but enough to reveal she felt it too. The spark. Luke holds her gaze, letting the silence stretch a heartbeat longer than necessary. The room feels it, subtle yet undeniable, like a slow, rolling drumbeat, marking the start of something inevitable. The conversation begins gently, deceptively soft, as if trying to convince everyone in the room that all is safe. Luke leans back, offering an easy, inviting grin that draws a polite wave of applause. Warm studio lights bathe the set. For a fleeting moment, it seems like they've settled into a comfortable rhythm, a smooth dance between guest and host. Then, in an instant, that illusion shatters. Joy lifts her first card, her fingers brushing the edge. Luke catches it immediately, his eyes following the movement with deliberate precision, like a man tracking the first ripple in a still pond before the storm breaks. Her gaze lifts, smile bright but sharpened ever so slightly at the edges. She delivers the opening question, soft in tone but loaded with subtle power. The words land like a pebble dropped in water, sending shockwaves across the table. Charm wrapped around a challenge, humor hiding an undertone of intent. The audience laughs lightly, unaware that the room's temperature just shifted. Pressure presses against Luke's spine, not enough to overwhelm, but enough to sharpen his focus. A tiny exhale escapes him and he straightens just a fraction. His smile remains easy, polite, but something steadier flickers in his eyes. A watchfulness, a readiness. Each response is calm, precise, measured, placed with deliberate care. He doesn't stumble, he doesn't flinch. He meets the question directly and the audience leans in without understanding why. Joy studies him, eyes softening briefly before narrowing again, calculation flickering beneath the surface. Luke's hand taps subtly on his knee, a small controlled hint of the tightening coil inside. Joy leans in, elbows edging closer to the table, posture sharpening, poised to push. The room senses the shift before another word is spoken. Laughter fades. The hum of backstage equipment softens. Stillness stretches across the set like a heavy curtain descending. Joy lifts her voice again, this time with more edge, looping back to his previous answer, nudging him just enough to test his limits. Luke tilts his head, eyes narrowing with a spark of controlled fire. He is not rattled, he is not angry, but he is fully awake, fully aware, and ready. He leans forward, voice steady, delivering his next line with surgical precision. The audience reacts. A mix of laughter and surprise ripples through the seats. Joy blinks once, subtle, controlled, then recovers with a tight, bright smile. Behind the cameras, producers stiffen, frozen mid-motion, sensing the charge in the room. Luke notices it all, the tightened expressions, the shifting energy, the subtle hum of tension threading through the air, searching for a spark to ignite. Joy lifts her next card. Luke's fingers curl slightly against his knee. Silence thickens, and in that suspended heartbeat, a quiet realization settles over the studio. Unseen, undeniable, like distant thunder rolling across an open sky. This is only the beginning. Everyone in the room can feel it. Joy wastes no time. The instant the audience's reaction fades, she leans forward, a spark in her eyes that makes the crew shift nervously behind the cameras. Her fingers brush the next card, bending the paper just slightly under her grip, before she fires off another question. This one lands sharper, heavier, aimed with the precision of someone who knows exactly where to strike. On the surface, it sounds playful, lighthearted even, but the words cut through the air like a velvet-wrapped blade. Luke senses the shift before he fully processes the question. His posture straightens subtly. His jaw tightens ever so slightly. The warmth in his smile cools into something steadier, anchored, deliberate. The tension between them settles like a weight neither of them intends to lift, but it's impossible to ignore. He answers without hesitation, each word smooth, controlled, threaded with a quiet steel beneath. Polished, firm, and deliberate, his composure speaks louder than any loud objection could. Joy listens, nodding, her smile thinning into something unreadable. She circles back, pushing the same question from a new angle, just enough to make the air crackle. The studio lights feel warmer. The audience shifts instinctively but says nothing. Every breath hangs, suspended between anticipation and dread. Luke lifts his chin slightly, eyes narrowing, not in anger but in razor-sharp focus. He refuses to be steered into a corner. His reply is firmer now, measured but undeniably clear. A line drawn with precision, the kind that speaks louder than any volume of words. A ripple runs through the audience. A soft gasp threatens to escape, swallowed instantly. Everyone senses it. The conversation has crossed an invisible threshold. Words become weapons. Not loud, not explosive, but intentional, each edged with meaning. Joy fires again. Luke meets it calmly, slicing through with quiet authority. The temperature rises degree by degree until the very air seems to vibrate with the tension between them. Co-hosts glance at one another, forced smiles faltering, unsure how to intervene. One tries to interject, overly cheerful, but the set swallows her voice whole. This moment belongs to Joy and Luke. Everyone else is merely an observer to the duel unfolding before their eyes. Joy leans in, tilting her head, eyebrow lifted in challenge. Her question lands like a small explosion on the table. The audience goes utterly silent. Not a cough, not a rustle, just breathless, suspended stillness. Luke exhales, steady, controlled. His shoulders relax, yet his gaze remains unshakable. Leaning forward just enough, he signals he is neither intimidated nor off balance. His response comes calm, measured, but charged with undeniable force. A verbal counterstrike delivered with perfect precision. Cameras seem to lean closer, capturing every flicker in his expression. The co-hosts glance at each other, faces tightening with concern. They can't stop it. They can't interrupt. They can only watch as the balance of power shifts right in front of them. Joy pushes. Luke pushes back, not with aggression, but with grounded strength that subtly tilts the table in his favor. She feels it. A flicker betrays her smile. Her eyes dart momentarily to the producers, silently checking her ground. But she returns to Luke immediately, refusing to yield. The silence between exchanges grows heavier, longer, more electric. Every word is deliberate, every breath a signal, every shift in posture a strategic move. Slowly, unmistakably, the momentum shifts. Power slides across the table like a shadow bending with the light. Luke's voice steadies further. Joy's questions press harder but land less cleanly. The audience senses the shift, drawn to him now, captivated by the calm fire building behind his eyes. What began as a gentle interview has now spiraled into a full-blown collision. Everyone, the hosts, the crew, the audience, can feel it. The storm has officially broken. The heat rises, the balance tilts, and the moment everything flips is barreling toward them with unstoppable force. Joy Bahar leans in, eyes sharp, posture lifted, with the confidence of someone certain she's about to land the final blow. The studio lights dance across her face, revealing a glint that's equal parts daring and defiant. She inhales ever so slightly, then releases the question that's been sitting on the edge of this conversation like a loaded trap. It's wrapped in her trademark humor, but underneath, the undercurrent is unmistakably pointed. The words hit the air like a match dropped onto gasoline. The room freezes. Not a breath moves. Not a whisper escapes. Even the rustle of fabric from the audience halts. It's as if the studio itself has been suspended in a single heartbeat. One camera zooms in on Luke's face, capturing the instant his eyes widen. Not in shock, but in recognition of exactly what Joy is attempting. Another angle cuts to the audience. Mouths parted, eyes wide, waiting for something they can feel but cannot name. Luke doesn't move at first. His hands rest on his lap, fingers relaxed, posture controlled, but his jaw sets with a decisive, silent click. The temperature in the room shifts again, sharper this time, like a sudden gust of cold wind sweeping through the studio. His gaze locks forward, steady and unblinking, as if the camera itself knows history is about to unfold in a single sentence. Joy smiles, the kind of smile that says she thinks she has the upper hand. But it falters for just a split second when Luke finally moves. He leans forward, slow, deliberate, elbows resting lightly on his knees. The light catches the steel in his eyes, the calm fire simmering beneath the surface. He lets the silence stretch, saturating the room until tension tightens like a wire about to snap. When he speaks, his voice is low, clear, impossibly calm, a direct contrast to the chaos rippling through the studio. His words slice through the air with surgical precision, sharp enough to make the audience flinch collectively. It's not loud, it's not angry, it's controlled power, a verbal strike delivered by someone who understands exactly how devastating honesty can be when spoken without fear. Gasps ripple through the audience. One mutters under their breath, "Oh my God." The camera nearest Luke wobbles slightly as the operator instinctively reacts to the impact. Joy's smile collapses. Her eyes widen, the first visible crack of surprise appearing on her face. Her mask slips just enough to reveal shock. She tries to speak, but nothing comes. Her fingers curl tightly around the table's edge, knuckles whitening. The remaining hosts shift uneasily, expressions tangled with panic and disbelief. One attempts to jump in, voice trembling with forced cheer, but stops midway, realizing the moment is too immense to interrupt. The control room erupts, producers waving, sound engineers scrambling, someone yelling to switch camera angles, red lights blinking like alarms. But on the main floor, time feels suspended. Luke leans back, calm, collected, almost impossibly composed. The fire behind his eyes has settled into something even more dangerous: certainty. He knows exactly what he just did. The audience knows. Joy knows. Every person on set feels the seismic shift as control on that table slams fully, decisively into his hands. Joy finally exhales, shaky, uneven. She looks down at her cards, searching for an anchor that no longer exists. The silence becomes its own force, heavy and suffocating, pressing down on every corner of the studio. The audience shifts, torn between awe and shock, unsure whether to clap, gasp, or simply stare. One camera moves in on Joy's stunned expression. Another swings back to Luke, capturing the quiet, unyielding strength radiating from him, the kind that dominates a room without raising its voice. Time fractures, stretches, bends around the weight of what was just said. And then, like a dam breaking, the audience erupts. Some cheer, some shout, some cover their mouths in disbelief. Every reaction a testament to the storm that has just been unleashed. The hosts exchange frantic glances. Joy tries to recover, but the words falter on her lips. Nothing she says can undo what just happened. The View, known for its storms, has never felt a shockwave like this. The moment doesn't just land, it shatters everything. The impact doesn't stay contained. The instant the cameras cut to commercial, it bursts outward, racing through the building like thunder echoing down a canyon. Producers rush from their stations, faces pale, eyes wide, whispering urgently as the magnitude of the confrontation hits them all at once. In the control room, someone mutters, "This is going to blow up," and another replies, "It already has." Outside the studio, the world reacts with the speed of lightning. Clips of the clash hit social media within minutes. Audience members upload shaky phone recordings, adrenaline shaking their hands. On Twitter, posts ignite like sparks jumping from a wildfire. Every replayed second fuels disbelief and excitement. Hashtags explode. Comment sections erupt. Some defend Luke fiercely. Others rally behind Joy with equal intensity. The digital arena becomes its own battlefield. Millions of eyes locked on a moment that shattered the calm of daytime television. Celebrities weigh in before the episode even finishes airing on the West Coast. Country stars, comedians, actors, talk show personalities, all jump into the fray, fanning the flames higher. Some praise Luke's composure. Others applaud Joy for pushing boundaries. Some simply admit shock, claiming they haven't seen a daytime moment hit this hard in years. Every comment becomes a headline. Every headline becomes fuel. Hollywood gossip sites pounce instantly. Articles explode online with dramatic titles, flashing thumbnails, and pulled quotes dissecting every angle. Analysts debate tone, posture, and micro-expressions. Every frame becomes evidence. Every breath a story. Paparazzi swarm outside the studio, eager for any hint of fallout. Inside, a crisis meeting erupts. Producers gather around a long conference table, voices tense, air thick with urgency. Clips replay over and over, every second analyzed. Some worry about backlash, some worry about ratings. Most worry about the unprecedented force of what just happened. Words like damage control, public statement, and emergency response echo like warning bells. Meanwhile, Luke steps into a quiet hallway. His phone vibrates nonstop, messages pouring in from friends, fans, and critics alike. Fire emojis, applause, disbelief. Some critical messages appear, but he scrolls past with calm, unshaken certainty. He knows the moment was bigger than anyone expected. He knows he said what he believed, and that certainty anchors him at the center of the storm. Joy retreats to her dressing room, closing the door with a soft click. Shoulders tighten as she sinks into a chair, scrolling through notifications. Some supportive, some brutal. Her fans rally fiercely behind her, defending her words, her tone, her stance. But the backlash is immediate and heavy. She exhales slowly, pressing her fingertips to her temples, trying to steady herself against the avalanche of noise pouring through her phone. Outside, the studio hums with whispers. Crew members exchange stunned looks, replaying the moment like a scene from a movie they can't believe is real. One mutters, "We just made history." Another whispers, "History or trouble? It's impossible to know yet." What everyone does know is this. The confrontation didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. It spread fast, fierce, unstoppable, through Hollywood, social media, and every corner of the entertainment world. The moment has taken on a life of its own, growing by the minute, shaping narratives, dividing opinions, pulling millions into its gravitational pull. The studio is no longer just a studio. It's the epicenter of an earthquake, still sending tremors across the globe. When the cameras finally go dark and the chaos begins to subside, the truths no one dared voice start to slip through the cracks. Behind closed doors, away from the blinding studio lights and the roaring noise of social media, the deeper motivations on both sides begin to surface like shadows rising from the floor. Luke sits quietly in a small waiting room, the buzz of his phone muffled by the cushion beside him. He isn't angry, he isn't rattled, he is thoughtful, replaying every word with the calm clarity of someone who knows exactly why he reacted the way he did. He had entered the studio ready to be challenged, ready to defend himself, but not prepared for the kind of loaded moment Joy had triggered. Yet somewhere deep inside he knew that line had been waiting for him long before today. Joy, in her own space, confronts a different truth. The question she asked, the one that ignited everything, wasn't improvised. It wasn't accidental. It was chosen. A card she had debated, hesitated on, and ultimately kept because she knew she had to push, had to test, had to provoke something real, something raw. She didn't expect the explosion, but she sparked it knowingly, and now faces the aftermath of a choice made long before Luke ever sat across from her. Down the hallway, the crew whispers in low, stunned voices. One stagehand recounts feeling the air change seconds before the final blow. A camera operator swears he saw Luke's eyes shift, like a secret signal only the closest could sense. A producer mutters that they had feared exactly this kind of moment might erupt someday. Just not today, not like this, not with those two. Details trickle out. Joy scrapped 3 earlier questions right before the show. Luke paced more than usual backstage. The control room had prepared 2 backup segments just in case, a decision that now feels eerily prophetic. In the quiet after the storm, with the truth finally revealed, one thing is clear. That confrontation wasn't born from a single question. It was years of tension, pressure, and expectation converging into one explosive second. And everyone who witnessed it knows there was far more beneath the surface than the world ever saw. In the days that follow, the moment begins to settle into Hollywood lore, retold and replayed with the reverence normally reserved for iconic movie scenes. Commentators call it a turning point. Fans call it unforgettable. Insiders whisper it marks the start of a shift, where unscripted truth cuts sharper than any planned segment ever could. The significance lies not just in the clash itself, but in what it revealed. Luke's calm fire, Joy's unwavering push, the collision of two forces who believed in their perspectives enough to let the world watch them collide. It becomes a reminder that even in the polished world of daytime television, real emotion still has the power to break through the veneer. Weeks later, people still talk about the silence right before Luke delivered his defining line. The audience's collective gasp, Joy's mask slipping, the camera capturing every tiny flicker of expression, as if documenting history. The story spreads across late-night shows, podcasts, fan forums, and industry meetings. Everyone has a take. Everyone has an angle. Everyone carries a piece of that moment in memory. Hollywood has a long history of dramatic confrontations, but this one hits differently. It carries the weight of authenticity, the raw electricity of two people unwilling to step back, the emotional spark that only comes when stakes feel deeply personal. And long after the noise fades, long after new controversies try to take its place, the moment remains. Quiet, unshakable, unmistakable. A reminder that sometimes reality slips through the cracks of entertainment and becomes unforgettable. A moment that will be remembered, a moment that will be replayed, a moment that, in its own intense and unexpected way, changed everything.